What's going on, sports card hobby family? It's another day. It's another sports card video. DPZ is going to react today to some of his mean comments from last week's episode. You gotta love them. We get them every week. I've got a new batch of mean comments, and that's just kind of part of the deal. It's part of the fun. Before I get started, if you do watch the show and you haven't subscribed yet, you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button down below. We have a cool giveaway that I announced on IG, so definitely connect with me there. We've got SlabMags, guys. I've got my own SlabMag color combination in honor of my New Orleans Saints. Gold glass. And this thing is sleek. It is awesome. We're giving away 3 of them, so make sure you go to my IG and there's instructions on how to do it. I've got a reel that's there, so make sure you follow that. We're giving away 3, and then also I've got my own separate landing page for these if you are interested. I'm also going to put that information down in the pinned comments as well as in the video description to where you can order this specific kind of slab mag, and Sports Card Dad at checkout gives you 10% off. The slab mag isn't necessarily for every card in the collection, but maybe you've got a few expensive cards. UV protection. Of course, you want to protect the slab. If you fumble this thing around, you drop it, it gets cracked or something crazy happens. Your girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever's messing around with your stuff, and you end up having a case that needs to be sent back in to be reholdered. Who wants to do that? Not me. I don't want to send stuff in to get reholdered, especially really nice cards. So it protects the case, protects the card. All right, and now we will shoot over to DPZ. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever this video finds you. Welcome to another Melted Wax podcast episode here. I was going to do like a reactionary video to the last video. It was a pretty popular video, and there was a lot of commentary, a lot of feedback, which is awesome, and I appreciate that. That's what you want. That's what you hope for when you start talking out loud about anything, really, and trying to engage with people that take time to listen. And I know a lot of folks had things to say and feedback, and I take it seriously. And I think it was great. It was actually informative, and I learned a few things. There was some stuff in there that was not as informative, but that's okay. Teach their own. But there are some comments I wanted to highlight and talk through because I feel like that topic obviously was very vague. I went through it pretty quickly. If you think about it, the economy of the whole entire the hobby is almost impossible to peg. It's my opinion, only my opinion, and I want to answer I want to kind of speak to some of those comments because a lot of them were really good, and I think it would hopefully, it's sort of like a live environment where we went live but we didn't go live, recorded, and then you commented below, but I want to treat those comments as if it's a live setting right now because it was such a cool topic. I feel like we can keep going with it. So I'm going to share some of the comments. I'm going to walk through some of the comments from the video. And let's engage further. And again, if you are watching this and I'm reading your comment and we're talking through it, maybe this is something we do in the future too. We take some comments and we kind of bring them back and do a little recap. Feel free to continue to dialogue with me. Again, this isn't live, so it's kind of unfortunate we can't go back and forth real time, but you still be able to hopefully we can have some sort of a dialogue and engagement that other people can maybe take part in. So anyway. Let's just jump right into it. Okay, so again, the episode I had was there are no card investors or collectors anymore. I know it was a bit of a cheeky title. Again, and there's some folks in there saying, why did you title it that? I think when it comes to sports card content, I think it's any content whatsoever, you want to try to engage viewership. You want people to kind of tune in. You don't want to bait and switch too much. You want to be somewhat authentic. And my point between the no card investors or collectors was, throughout the whole video, I felt like I layered it in, but if I didn't, the point was, I feel like we're all just kind of in one big group. We're hobbyists. There was a lot of people that there's a lot of feedback and kickback on the hobbyist term because collectors, take the collector term very seriously. And I understand that. That makes sense. It's not lost on me. But my thought was we call ourselves all hobbyists versus segmenting and siloing ourselves off. Even though throughout the video, I siloed everybody off. I was just making a point that we are sort of siloed off, but we're at the end of the day, we're all hobbyists. We're all together in one. My point, my hope, my opinion and thought. Let's just start with the first one. We jump off here. Agree that this is from a collector's dream. Agree that most collectors don't even watch YouTube or social media. I collected alone for over 50 years. No one knew. Studied the history of cards and card collecting for the love of the hobby. Never thought about cards as investments. Most true collectors are the silent majority. Ziggy responds to that. Orlando, I think the number of these collectors like yourself is a very small portion, like less than 20%. That's what Ziggy thinks. So would you agree? I believe the hobby is mostly transient participants that spend a season, maybe two, collecting modern cards. Very few stay active or become card collectors. This is why the hobby has no memory, and a few guys like me telling the youth about when I was ... Now, Ziggy makes a good point. There are people that come and go. I think the people that do come and go may not find a reason to stick around and stay. They may not become quote-unquote collectors or hobbyists. Maybe they're hobbyists for a time being, and then they're not hobbyists anymore. So, you know, it sort of begs the question, is hobbyist truly the best term? Could it be collector means you actually stay? Are you a hobbyist while you try to figure it out and learn and grow? And as you go through the processes and stages of growth, do you become a collector? It's a good question. But a very good good point, Collector's Dream. I believe a lot of my point was the folks at the very base level of this hobby are not paying attention to the things that I'm saying. They don't care what I say because they know way more than I do, which is fine. I get it, and we're all going to start somewhere, right? You're not a novice forever. You start learning and growing, and that's the whole point. But that base layer, I believe, is well versed, well informed, and is most likely not gathering information. They might tune into a couple really hardcore collector channels that really cover, like, you're going over sets and inserts, and you know, maybe they're breaking down new releases and things of that nature, possibly. Mike Nunya 3655 says, I'm a collector. Been collecting, so you got a collector again. Been collecting since 98-99. It's a long time. Never bought a card with the intentions of selling it. I also have never sent in a card for grading. See, there's that group that doesn't want to grade. I've actually cracked out most of my game use patches because I prefer the raw look. Prefer the look raw. I collect cards, not slabs, and grades. I know a few collectors. There's plenty. I guess it depends on who you associate with. Very good point. And again, if we silo ourselves off with certain groups, we tend to, you know, I know a lot of folks who just love having stuff in one touches, which I have a few things in one touches. You know, I've got, you know, a handful of these cards right now, one touch. Got a Kobe here in one touch. I've got this, you know, I cracked these out. This Kobe Power Plus, the Ultra Stars, and this Kobe here that's really good flare. I cracked these out of and bought some of them raw, and I have them in one touch because they look just terrific. The way they're awesome. They look great. So I enjoy one touches like everybody else, but I also feel like, you know, it's nice to have the liquidity when it comes to selling a card. If you need to sell it, if you want to color up to another card, it's nice to have that grade because it's a little easier to sell, in my opinion. But great question, Mike, or response. Again, Johnny at 1938. I've been collecting since 1980 and still doing it. I very rarely go to card shows because I don't like trying to look for cards while 10 people push in the Zion cases full of what everyone else already has. This might be a collector's been, like I said, for a while. Obviously 1980. He doesn't want to be around people. The new crowd probably, yeah, obviously annoys him. He wants to do his collecting, but he's also someone that's been collecting for a long time. He seems to be a base layer guy, much like Mike, that's actually watching content. So that's pretty cool. You know, that sort of goes against what I'm thinking. So again, it's my opinion. I could be totally wrong. But great comment, Johnny. I think that's a good point. That does happen. And James says, hence why people are moving in NFTs. No card shows are needed. I would argue against that. I think card shows are very much needed. Dwayne Tomka, good buddy of mine here. He agrees. He just called everyone hobbyists. He's kind of in the same line as me. We're all active in the hobby. He doesn't rip, but not because of prices, because he chases more rare cards. And I know what Dwayne and I are very alike in what we like and what we look for. We're both griffy guys, but looking for those the chase cards and rare cards. You know, it's easier just to buy the singles and locate them and find them, or try to locate them through groups and stuff like that. If a part of the hobby didn't have the investment opportunities, people need to look at cards that go for millions on and say RE auctions. The more rare cards are like fine pieces of art for the sports-minded person. They are, and I think those types of cards are. I think I responded to him here. those rare cards are more sought after. They're expensive. I think that. Yeah, but those are like the top 1%. Most of us aren't affording them. I know the fractionalized effort was there, and nobody really got in behind that because collectors don't want to own a share of a card. They want to own the whole thing. At least I'm speaking for myself. It's very difficult to get behind that. But yeah, it's hard to get those cards. So you're going to be in your level of what you can afford, and that's important. Bob Oozle, good message. Each little segment of the hobby has a stigma attached to it. It's true, they do. They do. That's a good comment. Ziggy, no, happy New Year, DPZ. Always good stuff for Ziggy here. Thanks for the update on the channel. Best success. I have used the term hobbyist for years, and I agree with you completely. Interesting insights on the hobby participants. I did a video on the layers of the hobby that is similar, but I don't think the collectors are base. I think true collectors are as rare as their cards. Most of the hobby is consumption driven, and most don't stay active for long. Much more, it's same vein of what he said earlier in a comment. Maybe a sports season or two. I think you are leaving out a lot of people. What about the businessman that wants revenue stream and cash heavy business to avoid taxes? You notice a lot of hobbyists in Texas and Florida with no state taxes and business friendly. Lots of scammers in the hobby too. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are, but we're not talking about them because I don't really believe they're true collectors. Talking about the people that are fakes. Okay. I'm enjoying your journey sharing. Okay. I think you two are influenced by your circle of friends and still have lots to explore in a hobby, my fellow hobbyists. Exactly. No, I absolutely agree. You always got to expand your circle, keep growing, get out of your comfort zone. Totally agree. Interesting comments, 26 minutes. Don't agree, but appreciate your insights. So yes, I think I wasn't talking about business services, Ziggy. I was trying to avoid them because I feel like they're participating in the hobby, but they're also benefiting from it from a business standpoint. And I think a lot of us do too, because we buy and sell cards. But I was trying to focus it more on the person that's probably taking that money and putting it back into the hobby. If they do sell or move cards or trade them or whatever, they're putting it right back into the hobby. Folks that are taking money out because they have to pay off bills, like that's totally understandable and worth doing. But I was really focusing my mindset around the people that are probably sticking around, taking that money and putting it and injecting it back into the hobby more often than not. So I left those out purposely. But we definitely, that's a conversation to be had about those layers and who is involved in the hobby and how they transact within it and the services they provide to the hobby. Lee Haskins 307 says, I'm all of them, a hobbyist, collector, and investor. The hobbyist part of my experience is watching videos like this and holding a single card in my hand and how fun I like that. Collector, investor parts is hunting for those cards, so I'm all three. I agree. I think, Lee, a lot of people can probably identify with multiple levels. And as you grow, do you want to be in one camp? More to Ziggy's point, do you want to be just in one spot, staying in one spot with your same circle and kind of putting yourself in that little cocoon, or do you want to grow and continue to evolve and challenge yourself to look at different avenues and places within the hobby and stuff like that? So I think it's good, like cracking out stuff and putting them in one touches that are appealing to you and you alone. I mean, I bought cards that nobody told me to buy, cards I liked and I wanted to see in a one touch. I was I learned that from the Card Guru and Rodney and some other people that really enjoy having cards in one touches, like Marco Biscio Jr. These are really good collectors that enjoy the card in the one touch. So I had to step outside a little bit to learn about that from some people, and thankfully I did, and it's pretty sweet. It's to learn that. So you keep growing and you keep evolving. So it is very important to keep doing that. Kevin Heckler said, good summary of the collecting hobbyist tiers like you. I am in that new category with minimal flipping, but having a mind's eye towards pricing and possible future price movements on the things that I buy. The caveat is, in my third round of collecting in almost 49 years alive, I consider myself somewhat sage in how I view market conditions and filter players for possible buy opportunities. I'm not sure that means I need to share more or shut up. It's just a hard thing to gauge since, more here, there's no one way to collect, and I don't presume how I view collecting should be how everybody else does. Exactly. And that's, again, Kevin, I wouldn't say, I'm not saying that at all. I think it's a great mindset to have. I think we all have different ways of doing it. And what's fun about these conversations is that we can dialogue with one another and learn how everybody else does it, what their view on the hobby is, where they're at with it, what they've been doing. So a lot of you, if you've been doing it so long, it's great to hear this feedback when you've been collecting for 37 plus years. I mean, I've talked to Jeremy a lot, worked with Jeremy Lee a lot, and he's a great resource. He's been doing it for so long. A guy like that's fun to talk to and learn from, and you just got to keep soaking that kind of stuff up because there's a lot of people out there that are willing to share that information. So that's a great comment there. Let's see here. The amazing young guy 5572, always a collector, always an investor. If cards aren't worth much, but I adore them. No reason for them to go in the trash or be sold for a quick buck. Could be a fire starter though. Yeah, I've gone through some of my old stuff from when I was a kid, and I did a purge. Pulled out all the stuff that I actually valued and coveted when I was a kid, and kept that, and just threw the rest away and recycled the rest of it. It's just a bunch of 89 tops and 90 tops and all the stuff like 90 skybox, like common stuff that it's just not been sitting in a box for years and years and years. That stuff is like you said, a fire starter. You could probably start a fire with it, or you recycle it. Just so good. But seriously, I'll hold on to my cards that I value regardless of value forever. And see, that's a collector. I mean, an amazing young guy 5572 has much of a collecting aspect. He's not really concerned about the value. He's more concerned about the card. He may not even have them in slabs. Probably has them in a one touch. And if he doesn't, either way, he's still happy with what they are. and is not as concerned about the values as to having them and possessing them. So that's a cool comment. Mr. Manzo official, no matter what we call it or how we do it, let's enjoy every step of the way. I like that. That's a very good point. Bear Cards 397, nice thoughts, CPZ, though I disagree. Here's a dissenting viewpoint. I'm still a sports card collector, so there's at least one. I have many hobbies: hiking, camping, fishing, reading, photography, and another hobby I enjoy is sports cards, specifically collecting cards. Hobbyist is too broad of a term for me personally. I prefer to be thought of as a card collector. Is it a hobby? Yes. But I consider myself a collector over a hobbyist. In the end, it's just semantics. So any way one describes or labels oneself is fine with me. Thanks for sharing. So, I mean, he didn't dissent that much. I think it's pretty broad. Hobbies could be considered all those things, right? But they're not, you're not collecting anything within those hobbies. So yeah, this is a hobby where you actually collect. I get it. It is a very different space. So maybe hobbyist is too broad a term. Again, it's the point of like trying to bring everyone together, but it does, the more I read through these comments, the more I kind of feel like, yeah, I don't know if that comment really makes a ton of sense anymore. So these are that's great feedback. Let's see here. DPZ, I see you're a WoW resident. Me too. I'm lukewarm collector, but I love to connect with fellow hobbyists and talk sports. I align with your viewpoint on the hobby and feel we can build rapport. Happy to hear your thoughts. You know what, Isaac, I think that's great. This is the whole point of these. Honestly, one of the most enjoyable and why I'm so grateful that Dustin, and I get to work with Dustin on this kind of stuff is I can speak for him too. We love engaging with you guys. I think it's fun to have these conversations, and the comment sections are a lot of fun. And there are some things in there a little interesting, but for the most part, you get a lot of great feedback from fellow collectors, because that's what we all are. We're all just, I'm no better than anybody else collecting. I'm not there's nothing more important about me than anybody that's commenting on this video. Heck, I comment on other videos too. I mean, we all do that. And we're all in the same boat. Nobody's more important than the other person. And I think what's fun is this just gives me an opportunity to talk to other people in other ways and engage with other collectors. It's fun for me. I learn, I grow. You get to just build relationships. It's fun, and learn what other people are collecting and how they collect and all the different stuff. That's what makes this hobby so fun. And while every day is exciting because you can enjoy it, it's sort of evergreen. It doesn't get boring and stale when you get to engage with other people. And at the end of the day, I think engaging with other people in general is a healthy thing. It's good for our minds. It's good for our spirits. It's a good thing. No one should be out there alone, feeling alone. And I think the hobby does provide that as well. It gives you an opportunity to gather and have fellowship with other people. And even if they don't agree with you, or if we're not on the same page, it's fine. Have bigger collections, you smaller. It doesn't really matter what your spend is. It's this fun dialogue we get to go back and forth on, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video this way, because I think it's kind of fun, and I want to highlight some of these awesome comments since this video had so many. So thanks, Isaac. That was great. Solus Christus 1. I started as an investor reseller and evolved into a collector. Part of this is because I have a lot of cards now that I don't want. No desire to buy cards that aren't not PC anymore. And I honestly, I'm feeling the same way. Solus Christus, I feel like I'm targeted, really more targeted, and have a hard time hanging on to stuff that isn't a star. I do love some certain sets. So I find myself wrestling with, like, do I sell this card? It's in a great set. It's a high grade of a great set that I love. It's a Hall of Fame player, but he's not a star. Do I keep it? I'll give you a perfect example that I'm struggling whether I want to sell this, 1999 Flare Brilliance, 24K gold, Craig Biggio BSC 9. It's at a 25. Flare Brilliance, 24K gold cards, in my opinion, are probably one of them, if not the most beautiful cards ever created, ever. Raise the Roof is another one. I think I posted about this. The 97 finest embossed gold refractors are pretty amazing looking too. But those, I feel like Raise the Roof and Flair Mystique in general is just incredible, right? You got established for the baseball, but the 24 karat gold brilliance in baseball, basketball, football, all of them, and then the Raise the Roof for basketball. Those are just two of the most gorgeous sets ever. So I got Tim Duncan Raise the Roof, and I have this 24K gold Craig Biggio. It's just cool to own them, right? Just to have one, and they're both Hall of Famers. Are great. Are they stars? No, not really. Maybe Tim Duncan, but But that's the kind of target I'm like, do I target myself that much to the sets, to the player? I'm mostly David Robinson, Kobe, and Griffey, but it's like to venture out there, it starts to get kind of, okay, now I'm just going to start buying anything. You kind of test yourself to keep it, okay, what's going to be a PC? What am I going to hang on to? So I like that comment. It's a great comment. Going to a show, Kenneth Salter 9998, going to a show today. This is a hobby that I hope someday is a type of investment I can trade up to bigger cards. Exactly. That's totally agree. Also, I want to get realistic cards that are attainable for others. I was reminded to enjoy it, enjoy people. Exactly what I said earlier. Much love and wish me well on my hunt. Of course, we wish you well, Kenneth. That's awesome. More shows and more of that. Get realistic cards that are attainable for others. There's something about that. when you do spend money on cards, you want to make sure you're spending money on a card that you think is going to be in demand later. So if you do have to sell it, or you want to sell it to move up and color up to a different card or consolidate, whatever, you're going to be able to move that card. There's going to be some desire or demand for it. So that's a good point. Benjamin Lang 8269. One thing this guy's right about: there are no more investors left. I feel like not as much. Too many people are taking losses and getting hurt financially. I mean, you look at some of these players Justin Herbert. I mean, just go down the line. I mean, you can name off a ton of players that people are spending big money on, and if they don't pan out, you're out. Like Kenny Pickett. Think about how people are feeling about that investment. That's a lot of money to be spending on a guy. And I think it's going to either push people out, or they're going to refocus them on I want to collect the players I know that I love. You like to have the active players because they're fun to have skin in the game, but if I'm going to spend money, then I want to make sure there's something that's going to be more stable. So let's see here. Master Shake 300. Yeah, I'll never be a set collector. I dabbled in it as a kid, and I've got a pile of worthless set cards as a result. Now I'll be happy with a small collection of cool cards. Yeah, I mean, and we all keep changing too, right? We start somewhere and we go somewhere else. Happens all the time. Makes sense. TJ Clutter, this is a cool comment. Although I tend to comment on YouTube and social media, I don't have an online presence. And that's okay. I'm about to hit 509 total Gary Sheffield game used. 3,700 different cards in total. That's amazing, by the way. Congratulations. And he's having a signing in New Jersey, 2-3. Probably not going to go there since there's no one I might get signed, or what I would say to them. Say to the man, like, yeah, exactly. You have so many cards. Like, well, which ones do you pick? I mean, that's got to be difficult. But that's kind of a cool term. Like, curvy. Like, Gary Sheffield must matter to you to want to collect them like that, and that's neat. That's a really fun way to do it. It's probably a little bit more affordable too. And so here's a comment I really wanted to speak to. Carl's D8686. That was a lot of words to say, not much. Of course, there are a million different factions and interests within the hobby. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes. However, there are indeed collectors. Try and call Automil an art collector and hobbyist and see how that conversation goes. Also, breakers are not hobbyists or flippers, nor is the full-time dealer or anyone that generally profits. Exactly. That's why I didn't want to include them. This is a financial income stream, not a hobby. Exactly. Totally agree. Someone that earns money from buying and selling as a merchant or a trader, or someone leads you to believe an investor. The term collector or hobbyist typically does not describe someone that sells to solely earn profit. Exactly. Like I said earlier, putting it back into the hobby if you're going to sell. Collectors are more thought of as people that trade in some cases, sell in order to fund to grow their collection. There you go. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this comment. It makes a ton of sense. I think we went back and forth a couple times here. Like I said, this is true. And I think, yeah, Kevin's right. The spirit of the video was aimed at non-business members of the hobby. But I think that, the point here was well taken. I enjoyed what Carl's had to say. Hopefully, yeah, maybe I said too much. I rambled much. Who knows? Yeah, I can ramble. It is what it is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different. It's impossible to find a common ground for everybody. So it was a good comment, though. Big Smooth said I should start making podcasts about candle making, which I don't know how to do that. So the buy them for the gum 3670 says yes. Want to be part of the hobby, always learning. Agreeing with you on that. Mike Roble, this is a kind of a cool back and forth with Mike. I actually enjoyed this correspondence. So IRS requirements are different if you have a hobby or business. My head hurts listening to this guy. Yeah, maybe so. Is it me, or do you just talk out of both sides of his mouth? Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, though I feel like he's just trying to pigeonhole people and seems to believe he has a pulse on everything. No, I don't. I don't believe I have a pulse on everything. I think I made that clear, Mike, when we were talking back and forth. It's not what I'm trying to say. That's my opinion. Am I right? Am I wrong? Who knows? That's up for debate. Streams of consciousness meets projectile vomiting. I think, okay, a little intense there. He says, thanks for your query. You spoke about the importance of old school collectors and hardcore collectors and described them as those who go to card shows in the middle of the night, laugh at spectators, scoff at others, and guard it are difficult. In my opinion, the latter comments sound derogatory. I don't find value in placing labels on people. I listened to your video again, this time until the end. I suggest not waiting 2 minutes. So it wasn't clickbait, not in my opinion. I explained at the very beginning. I tried to get engagement. That's really that's what all this is about. But yes, bringing that up at the very end. Can I layer that in more? Maybe. But I think that this is not about pigeonholing people. And it's not about being derogatory whatsoever. I think we can agree to disagree on that, Mike, and that's totally fine. But I just felt like there's these layers of the hobby based on my experience that I've had the past 5 years. Now, that's not 35 years that some folks have had, so obviously it's going to be skewed and biased towards my experience, a shorter time period, very heavily influenced by the boom and everything that's happened in the last 5 years. It had not happened for a while for a lot of folks that have been collecting for a long time. So it's obviously going to be biased. It's going to be influenced by that. It's going to be instructed by that. So yeah, I think, but I was never really trying to be derogatory. So unfortunately that was taken that way. That's too bad. I would argue a wrong. Dairy Crypt Keeper said, collectors are being driven away by the outrageous prices of hobby boxes while investors are buying, grading, and selling for profit. I don't know if there's that much of that going on anymore. I feel like that's not. I could be wrong. I think there's a select number of breakers that are like, that have been selected to do it for Fanatics, and I think they're all doing well. I think the smaller breakers are struggling right now. I don't think they have that kind of. They're not having that. They're not getting that profit they used to get. I think a lot of folks are dipping out of the hobby because of that. So that's unfortunate too. I feel like when you start losing some of that competition, that's not always a great thing. So it's great for the folks that have been selected, and they've worked hard to get there. So there's nothing against that, but that is something that I don't know if I completely agree with. Eric Michael Guy is pure snake oil comes up. I don't know who this guy is. I know that Dustin had a show about him, and Cage was talking about him. I don't know who he is. He just seems to be a guy that's buying advertisements and paying for Facebook. He's trying to get out in front of folks. And yeah, the first thought I had when I saw it, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know who this person is. I've been around long enough now where I kind of know a lot of the folks. And just because I don't know them doesn't mean they're not legitimate or anything like that. But it didn't come off kind of interesting to me. Yeah, it just didn't come off right. I don't know how else to explain it. Yeah, I think there's some good stuff here. Somebody thought I was a dope. I thought maybe they thought I was dope. Which was Dustin and I was hoping that was the case. Aaron Hernandez 1010 said, you keep saying there's no money in flipping cards like it's a fact. I set up at shows all over the place and see a lot of vendors, flippers, repackers, breakers, and collectors flipping cards for profits. You said that you are a novice, so I won't be too hard on your takes, but I think you might rethink being so absolute on your opinions. Yes, I'm not absolute at all, Aaron. I wouldn't be absolute at all. I mean, I'm not at the shows that you're at seeing this, so obviously I can't speak to that. You can speak to that because you've been there, and I'm going to take your word for that. That's happening. Okay, so maybe there are opportunities at these shows, and I'm just not seeing them online. So, and that's a majority of my hobby experience right now has been online. So take that for what it is. More card shows for me in the future for sure, but that's been my take so far. But you could be completely right. The only way to make money, Sinister Investment says, is to buy and hold low pops and quality players for the long run. But I do see potential profits. I mean, if you do, it depends on your entry point. When you buy in. If you're buying in now, I think a lot of stuff is corrected. So I think that there's an opportunity for that. I think there's an opportunity right now with how expensive. I mean, everything's corrected to a point where you might be able to get in on some of these cards and see growth, slow growth, 2 to 3% over time. That would be more, I think, more reasonable of an expectation. And just a lot of great comments here. But here's a really good one. Let's read this. The Legend of Brett Morrison. So it says, maybe you should have more of us on, unless this is a clickbait topic, and it's not. No, and I want to have a lot of folks on. If there's anybody out there that wants to come on a show and talk about cards, let's do it. Just get a hold of me, DM me, find me. I'm happy to have you on and happy to talk cards with anybody. You don't have to be a content creator. If you want to talk, let's go. To show some actual different cards. Some of us actually work and do this for hobby investment, but call it what you want. I was also smart enough to save some Lionel Train stuff for the other collectibles too. Just whatever. I like to know what it's worth something, and if I can get it all in one place, it's like a massive life collection but cards are one of my favorites. Okay, so basically the guy collects cards. He's got some Lionel Trains as well. I made the train comment because I was trying to compare the two spaces, but they're obviously they're vastly different. The heart of the video, the premise of the video is that just everybody kind of, we're all in this together. We're all kind of one big group. We all may do it very differently, and we all have different timelines and time horizons with cards we bought. We may buy and sell and trade differently, and the time frames from which we do that is different. We've been doing this for, some of us have been in here for like 5 or 6 years, 1 year, 2 months, 30 years, 40 years. It's all different. So different, desires and things that we like to collect and things that matter. So I just think that was the point. I feel like, we want to silo off a lot, but I feel like we're all just kind of one. And the more the more people you talk to in different factions of the hobby, the more knowledge you're going to gain. You're going to learn more about the hobby, about why people think certain ways and why they do the things they do and why they hold the opinions. Some folks are really convicted about what they believe, and learn why, find out why they feel the way they feel, why these things are, some of this nefarious activity obviously is very obvious. Most people can agree, on those things. It's not good. And, the trimming of cards, or, the faking of cards, or, the fraudulent activity in general. There's any fraudulent, that's all bad. I mean, everybody can agree on that. But there's also like a lot of like dissenting takes, and learn why people feel the way they feel. I think it's important to do that. So I always try to challenge folks to do that. Anyway, this is it. This is all I got. It's a little bit shorter show, and it's a little comment, a read back, and just some, a recap and a reaction to the last video. I look forward next week. I got Rodney Vallejo coming on. We're going to be talking about the hobby, the what's going on in the market. He does not have a YouTube page. I don't believe. He got on a couple shows with Joey Peapod. He's done one with me before as well. But he's a big Griffey guy, long-time collector, more of a raw collector guy. His input's always fun. So I look forward to having him on next week, and we'll have that one up for you next weekend. But thank you for listening to me talk solo for a couple weeks. I appreciate you giving me the time. If you have any more comments, questions below, please respond. I mean, those of you, especially if I read your comments on the air like that, you're full. Go ahead, comment back. Am I off? Am I still off? How do you feel about it? Let's keep dialoguing. Let's keep having conversations. We're not going to make another video about it, but I still think it was fun to kind of walk through some of that, because I thought there was great commentary there. Again, thank you for for engaging in the video, watching the video, tuning in. You can find me at PC with DPZ, the Melted Wax podcast, on my own channel. And of course, you got the Sports Card Dad channel right here. Please subscribe, keep watching, keep listening. Take care, you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and be safe, be happy, be kind to one another. Take care.